Good evening. You're listening to the Good Evening Show with your hosts, Henry Van Loon.
And Adrian Mann.
With tonight's guests, casting director Marlene Debussy, Professor Curtis Snoot, and a musical performance by the Whipple Street Players. Tonight is August 18th, 2017, and you're listening to the Good Evening Show. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Good Evening Show. Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
I'm Henry Van Loon.
And I'm Adrian Mann.
We got another great episode today for you of the Good Evening Show.
Good evening.
We have casting director Marlene Debussy, Professor Curtis Snoot, and I'm pretty excited for this, Adrian. A performance by the Whipple Street Players.
The Whipple Street Players?
Yeah.
Are they a new upstart player association?
You know, I did a lot of research on this group of players before the show today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So,
that's good. Yeah, we'll see them later then.
Yeah, we'll talk to them, and that's maybe you want to ask them that later.
Hey, I'm going to go get a banana. Do you want a banana?
It is way too late at night for me to eat a banana, dude.
No, it's good. It's good for, give you a little boost of energy.
You know, potassium keeps me up.
Okay, not listening. Go ahead and get a banana.
If I had a nickel for every time I was telling him a story about bananas and he just walked away, I'd have a lot of nickels. Okay. All right, our first guest today is renowned casting director, Chicago native, working all throughout America. A true joy to have on the show. Let's bring out Marlene Debussy.
Which microphone, darling? Is it this one?
Yeah,
is it this one over here?
That one, the one that's right in front of you.
Okay, all right, yeah.
There we go.
This is comfortable here. Yeah, I like this.
Marlene, may I call you Marlene?
Please, darling.
Okay, Marlene, thank you so much for coming on the Good Evening Show. I've heard so many stories. I've just been looking forward to this for so long. I guess my first question to you would be, what brought you to casting?
Well, it's an interesting story. You know, I grew up in Chicago. Okay, so my family they're all about we were a meat packer family.
Sure.
So we all dealt with meat growing up, mm-hmm. and my father wanted me to go into the meat business. Just like everyone else, and I couldn't do it. From an early age, I had a fear of animals. Not all of them, just like, certain kinds of animals that normal people would be like, why are you afraid of that? Why are you afraid of that, Molly? It's just a regular animal. It's a squirrel or something,
So you had a deep fear of squirrels.
Yes.
Okay.
That's not really related to the fears that kept me out of the meatpacking industry. It's just something I deal with in my life.
Sure, and I respect that.
But anyway, so I was growing up. I was gonna go to meat college. I was gonna do the whole thing. But then, I realized I had a talent for casting for the film mm-hmm. and television mediums.
So when did you first recognize that talent for casting?
Well, like I said, it was right before college, darling. Open up your ears. I just said that.
Sure, I guess what I mean to say.
When I was going to go to college, instead I just dropped out. I just drifted around the coast for a little while, the East Coast. It was a lovely time in my life. I slept with a lot of interesting people.
Okay, that's, wow. I was going to ask about casting, but now I almost want to ask about that.
Sure, so the casting was great, and eventually I found myself, in producers' offices left and right, and I'm like, I got an eye for talent, So they'd come into the office, and I'd review them, and I'd tell basically the producers, which one's gonna be the rising star.
Interesting. How can you? What do you look for in a young actor or actress? How do you recognize that star power?
Well, it got to have that it factor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, like that, where they just pop.
Sure, I've heard of that. I mean, who are some actors you've seen that in from an early age?
Oh, Haley Joel Osment.
Mm-hmm.
He was a phenomenal popper.
Sure.
Winona Ryder,
Absolutely.
still to this day, pops.
Mm-hmm.
She just pops like nobody else. And I would say Macaulay Culkin, early on in his career, The Good Son, that he was popping all over that movie.
Absolutely. It factor. What was the first... did you start with movies, or were you casting for the stage?
I just jumped right into movies, darling. You know, It was just the crowd I was in. I was in the coast, and everyone, they do movies on the coast. That's what everybody knows. It's going up and down the coast. We were working with movies. And I was meeting all kinds of interesting people. And basically just having a lot of good sex with them.
That's the glory years. I can't help but think when somebody says film and casting, I tend to think, more Hollywood, California.
Oh yeah, that's the other coast. Yeah, of course. I mean, a couple of movies are made there, one or two, I think, per calendar year. But over on the other coast, I was into the movies like you wouldn't believe, honey. You wouldn't believe it.
So I don't know if this is too personal, but can you go into detail about sleeping your way up and down the coast?
Sure. Yeah, it was a lovely time in my life. I was a young woman. I was trying to find myself. And I was exploring all kinds of things. And, about like the 35th person I was sleeping with at the time turned out to be a movie producer.
Sure.
And that's how I really got started. So if I have a piece of advice I could give out to the young people listening, it's just sleep with everyone. Like, just keep your options open, Just enjoy your life. Go out and find your life, That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
You heard it, listeners. Words of wisdom from a veteran casting director. Marlene. We're here with Marlene Debussy.
You got the Whipple Street boys and girls here, right?
Yeah, we have the Whipple Street Players on our show today.
I casted most of them.
Really?
In terrible movies.
Okay. We have the Whipple Street Players on the show today, and you've casted them.
Yeah, little Billy Trudeau. Yeah, I casted him in a terrible movie. It was a terrible movie. It was the Sharknado movies. This was actually rated lower than the Sharknado movies on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
So it was a terrible movie.
Do you recall the name of that film?
No, that's how forgettable the movie itself was. But I told him it was his big break.
Sure.
So he's a little bit mad at me. I should probably leave before he comes out. So I'm not gonna hang out or anything for the next guest. Okay. So I'm gonna probably take off now. It's been great. Thank you.
Wow. That's okay.
I'm going to leave some of my business cards here, okay?
Thank you.
Can you pass them out to anyone that pops?
Oh, sure.
Just if they come in and they just pop out at you.
I mean, I've been told I kind of pop a little bit.
Oh, let me look at you, darling. Let me look at you. Lift your head up.
How about,
You might have popped at one point or another, but I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're great for radio.
That's wow.
Or casting all kinds of pods everywhere you want.
Sure, okay.
All right. So I'm gonna take off now. Okay. Take care, honey. Bye now. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Veteran casting director Marlene Debussy. I was really hoping to talk about her upcoming shows, but apparently she's anxious to skirt out here before the Whipple Street Players come in. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with Professor Curtis Snoot. You're listening to the Good Evening Show. Good evening.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, what's up, Johnny?
Are you a cool jazz cat?
Oh, yeah. You know it.
Ooh, baby. And I got something for you.
What's it?
Well, it's new jazz, Gert. It's yogurt for jazz cats.
What?
Jazz, Gert.
How does that work?
Well, you just take this yogurt, right? It's made from goat's milk. It's not that great, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's better than some things.
Why is it jazz specific?
But it's for jazz cats.
Is it like blue?
Yep. And when you blow it on your horn, or you're tipping the ivories, whatever you're doing, this is the yogurt for you.
When I go to the grocery store, how do I find it?
You just look for me. I'll be hanging out by the side of the grocery store with my Jazz Cat sunglasses on.
My mom won't let me go to that grocery store because of all the...
Just go there. Don't. Okay. Your mom doesn't know everything. Just go. Jazz, Gert. For Jazz Cats. You dig?
Flute on the bottom.
Welcome back to the Good Evening Show. This is your host, Adrian Wolfman. My co-host, Henry Van Loon, stepped out for a moment to get more bananas. There were actually not enough. I only had one. I don't know where they all went. Anyway, our next guest here is Professor Curtis Snoot, professor of ornithology at Hemingway College.
Actually, no, all of that information is wrong.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
So you're not a bird professor?
No.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Normally our research is great.
A deep fear of birds.
Fear of birds. Oh, wow.
Yes.
So this might have even been a practical joke.
I don't find it very funny.
Well, neither do I, to be frank.
Somewhat funny. Oh, yes, I actually do get it now.
So why don't you tell us what you're a professor of?
Sure. I'm a professor of otherness studies.
Otherness?
Yes. Otherness, yes.
If you wouldn't mind expounding slightly on
sure, no, basically
otherness.
You know, it's a foundational of thinking of things that we aren't.
So you teach classes on what we aren't.
It's true, yes.
Okay, like for example, what was a recent topic of a lecture?
Sure. Well, we're just coming back from summer break, as you must know, and we have begun a discussion of what it means to. You look at your hands for a moment. This is a small demonstration. Even your listeners can do if you hold your hands in front of your face.
All right. We'd like to invite the listeners to follow along. And hold my hands in front of my face as well.
Please, allow me. I'm a seasoned professor.
Oh, sure. By all means.
So you hold your hands in front of your face. One is a favorite hand, right? You write with it, which is telling. Maybe you wave goodbye with it or hello, and maybe you scissor with it.
You what?
You scissor. What would you call it? Cut with scissors.
You use it.
Scissoring. You scissoring with this hand.
No, I think I understand what you mean. Yes.
With to be using scissors.
To use this. Right. Correct.
Right. And for you, Adrian, which hand is that?
That would be my right hand.
Right. So if you were to be using scissors, you would use your right hand.
Yeah.
Now imagine for a moment that you are left-handed.
Okay.
Okay. You have same scissors though, but you find it difficult to cut and to scissor.
Well, actually, my mother is left-handed, and I've used left-handed scissors before. They're not that difficult to use in your right hand.
Okay. I hate to be rude. This is graduate level studies we're discussing.
Okay. So
you would find it very difficult to scissor with that hand with a right-handed scissors. But what I mean to say is many, and the science and the evidence would support this, that left-handed children and I presume adults would have great difficulty using scissors with the left hand that are meant for right-handed folks. It is what we call in otherness studies a privilege. It is the privilege of the right-handed, what we in my field have come to call right privilege.
Right, right.
Yes, you see, you understand.
Well, I guess I would be someone who has a great deal of a right privilege, according to you, because I was born with a right dominant hand.
Sure. Yes. But see, this is the first step, is to acknowledge, to recognize biases and hopefully to, overcome, although it really can't be done. It's really just inherent in, the privilege in itself and the systems, you see.
Do you have any methodologies that you'd recommend to overcome this kind of privilege, or at least to make someone more aware of it?
So I have colleagues, at the university who have argued with me vehemently regarding right privilege, so to speak. Well, they say things like, I'm a well-educated man. I didn't get to where I am just by being right-handed. But I then ask them, how many of your colleagues are left-handed? And they never know the answer to that question at all. They can't answer it. And they say it's not even something they think about. And doesn't that make you think?
Yes, actually, that's interesting there. So part of otherness studies is putting a lens on the part that you're not thinking about. Yes.
Right.
I think I'm starting to get it, Professor.
I don't think you are, but
No?
I think it's good that you think you are. That's important.
Well, I'm eager to learn, so let's keep going down this path.
Sure.
Recently, you were published in a periodical. Was it?
I think that might have led to some of your confusion, because I was recently published in a birding magazine for
yes.
amateur. I guess it's terrifying to think of. People spend their time identifying fauna, flora, birds, and it's just.
I actually have the issue of that here. It's
I'm sorry.
It's a
No.
birding digest.
I really don't like to see the magazine. I really don't, because
Right here on the cover, it's looks like a blue jay.
I can't even begin. Do you know how difficult it is as a young boy? I'm sorry, you've kind of culled these emotions in me. As a young boy, to be afraid of birds, and do you know what the children call you when you're afraid of birds?
What do they call you?
They call you a chicken, and it's cruel.
That's foul. Children can be so cruel,
I don't know how to begin.
Well, luckily you don't have to. This is an area we don't have to press into this area if it's a little bit too sensitive a topic. We can strictly speak about the.
You're right. Yes, the Birding magazine recently featured a study where I discussed the difficulties of one-eyed individuals when it comes to the recent trend of 3D films and the popularity of 3D films even beyond the Hollywood blockbuster. It's really quite an unfair privilege for folks who have vision in both eyes. And I often ask my colleagues to consider this, and it's been a point of contention.
And have you spent a lot of time interviewing and collecting data from the one-eyed?
Hanging out at cinemas, I guess you'd call it, and doing exit interviews with folks coming out of different various 3D movies, and asking them if while they were watching, say, the latest Star Wars, if they had any thought of individuals who were unable to watch the 3D aspect of the film.
So it sounds like you are really an advocate, a champion.
Not at all. No. I think the reason that the Birding magazine was interested is because many birders rely on the binocular, you see. But some have recently become fascinated by using the monocular.
Monocular, you say?
Some birders have become increasingly interested in using a monocular And although
a
you,
monocular. I don't believe I've ever heard of that.
it's basically a binocular, but for one eye.
Okay.
Because I think it's interesting that that these birders are kind of co-opting monocular culture.
So you think monocular culture should be more widespread, more...
Not at all.
Oh.
No.
Okay,
No.
so you're just saying that it should be reserved for...
Adrian, you could choose to close an eye, either eye,
Yeah.
at any point for any duration. But some of our one-eyed friends, for lack of a better term, simply cannot.
Well, that sounds... when you put it that way, it sounds kind of sad.
I mean, no, but I guess. I guess it is a little sad.
Oh.
I hadn't thought about it.
Do you... Oh, can we get the professor some tissues? Thank you. Here you go.
They don't get to see 3D movies. They gotta just watch a regular D. Oh. Why would you go to see a Star Wars in 2D? It's just
the movie's called Star Wars.
Right. For you it is maybe. No, but I have a lot of empathy. You see, just a lot of empathy.
In closing here, I have one more question. And this is really just a personal question because it's something I've been thinking about since you came in.
Sure.
I know, we were discussing earlier, children can be a little bit cruel. With a last name like Snoot, what is the worst nickname that you've ever been given by a peer or a student?
I fail to see how that's relevant.
Well, it's just human interest, just the listeners would enjoy it, I think.
The children I grew up with, well, mostly my siblings, and they largely have the same surname. But they quickly noticed that our shared surname backwards is Tunes. And they started to call me Looney Tunes.
That's interesting. So nobody ever called you like Snooty or...
No, why?
Your students don't call you Professor Snoot?
They call me
Snoot,
Dr. Snoot. I don't... No.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. It was just my last question.
No.
So thank you again, Professor Curtis Snoot.
Oh.
Look for his latest article in Birding Digest.
Birding Digest, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, Adrian.
Yeah, Henry.
Is it true you're looking for a variety of new pets that are handcrafted?
Yeah, for sake of argument, let's say yeah.
Aren't you sick of going to like pet shelters and puppy mills and all you see
So sick.
are the same doodles and beagles?
Yep.
Have you ever tried the website Petsy.com?
Petsy.com?
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Good question, Adrian. Thank you for asking. That's a great setup for our new commercial sponsor, Petsy. Petsy, the handcrafted pet supplier, where you can get your own handcrafted mix of your favorite breeds of dog.
What do you mean? I could get a golden terrier?
Absolutely.
I could get a poopadoodle?
You can get two.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, I've got a special order right now to get a mix of two dogs that aren't even invented yet.
What dogs?
Well, that's for me to find out. That's why I'm going to Petsy right now.
I think I'm going to go right after you're done using the computer.
Good, because we have one computer here.
We share it.
Petsy.com, your source for handcrafted, one-of-a-kind pets. Hi, welcome back to the Good Evening Show. Once again, I want to thank our earlier guests, Marlene Debussy and Professor Curtis Snoot. I'm really excited. This is the first time we've had a whole ensemble on the show. The Whipple Street Players will be joining us in just a moment. Boy, Adrian, did you notice Marlene sure got out of here in a hurry?
Yeah, I did notice that. And did I make Snoot cry? Did you see him on the way out?
You may. So let me get this straight. I go to get bananas, and you make the guests cry. Cool. That's kind of a.
Well,
yeah, I guess you're just the new Barbara Walters.
I get the reference. Well, without further ado, let's bring in
The Whipple Street Players. Billy, can you tell us a little bit about the history of this troupe?
Yeah, how long have you guys been around?
Yeah, and when did you guys start?
That's a good question. I started acting last year. We did my high school did what's that called? The big killer plant.
Oh,
Grease. And it just got me started on theater, I guess. I live on Whipple, just off Whipple, so Whipple Street Players seem like
okay. So you formed this company.
No, they've been around for at least before I was in the troupe.
Oh, so how'd you find out about the troupe?
I'll just put it this way: I had a casual encounter with an older lady who was kind of a casting director, and she pointed me towards the Whipple Street Players.
Oh, is that right?
And she said, "Oh, you're an actor. You should be part of the Whipple Street Players." And I'd never heard of that, but she hooked me up with it, and it's been pretty cool. We're doing this new show, and I got a lead role, and that's cool.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. I haven't heard much of the musical, but it's getting a lot of buzz.
It's right there on Whipple Street. It's across from the Dunkin' Donuts. So,
well, I just can't wait to hear what you got for us. So why don't we just hand it over to you guys and.
I showed her my chart and every single book that I read. They said I had to read 25 books if I wanted my own personal pen. And I took it to the Pizza Hut. I took it 'cause I knew that I would book it. But I didn't know if that would be enough, because reading is really tough. Oh, it's tough. But I had to book it. Book it. I booked a book at the corner store. It was a book about a girl named Lisa. And she was learning to read, but it was kind of tough. But you know what? At least she got a personal pizza, 'cause she booked it. Yeah, Lisa booked it. She knew that she could read a book and it was not that hard. And if she ate a pizza, it would be worth it. And she took it.
Wow, that was incredible. That was incredible.
I remember that Book It program.
Book It, yeah. So this is the title song from the musical Book It the Musical.
Yeah, Book It the Musical by Whipple Street Players, playing at Whipple Street Theater now. Sorry, I got to say before we go, Pizza Hut is not affiliated with the show in any way. We're not actually technically allowed to mention them, and technically Book It is a trademark term. Hey, I got to thank these guys for coming in. Once again, I'd like to thank our guests today, veteran casting director Marlene Debussy, Professor Curtis Snoot, and of course the Whipple Street Players performing as the centerpiece of Book It the Musical. Thank you again for joining us. This has been the Good Evening Show, and we'd like to end by wishing you a good evening.
Good evening.
A Jam Gina production.